guys, it's Sheila from She Makes Crochet, and in this video I'm going to show you how to work front post stitches. And this is a technique you need to use in order to work my cables for my cable pillow. So I have a swatch here, and I have on this row right down here some double crochet stitches, and I'm going to use those to show you how to work the post stitches. So to start, I'm just going to make a single crochet, and then what you'll do, it's basically a matter of where you insert your hook, and then the stitch length could change. So I have another video where I talked about all of the different tall stitches that I use in the pattern. So this could vary slightly just depending on where you're at with which specific cable, but generally you'll do at least a double crochet stitch, and you're going to so I yarned over, and then instead of working it into this next space, you're just going to get this double crochet, or whatever it might be. It might not be a double crochet, it might be a treble crochet, but you're just going to get the stitch and just insert your hook into it like that. And then you're going to yarn over, and then you'll kind of catch that stitch, and then you'll finish your double crochet. And now the two double crochet stitches are sort of locked together, and it's making one tall kind of line. You'll need to skip this next stitch here because you've already made the double crochet along the post. So you'll skip it and single crochet, or whatever the pattern says, but often that's what it'll say in my pattern. And then I'll show you again how to make the post stitch. Yarn over, you'll just grab that double crochet, yarn over, and again I kind of yank up on my yarn a little bit just so it's not too tight. And there's another one. You'll have to skip the next stitch because you've already made it through the post, so you're not going to make it at the top. So I'm just single crocheting. The other thing the pattern might tell you to do is to work a post stitch across. So when it says to do that, oftentimes it'll be a longer stitch. So in this case I'm going to do a treble. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and I'm going to skip this here and jump over to this one over here. So that's what I mean by across. So, but the technique is the same. You're just going to go through and yarn over, and this time, because it was a treble crochet, you'll have to yarn over and pull through 2 loops an extra time. So now you just made an extra long stitch. Again, you're going to skip this next stitch along the top because you already made the stitch, single crochet, or whatever the pattern says. You might have to single crochet a couple times. One time, the pattern will direct you, but the next thing you have to do is now we have to cross and get back into this one over here. So again, I'm going to use a treble crochet. So I yarned over twice, and then I'm just going to go, it's a little awkward, but I'm just going to do the same thing and go back into that double crochet. So I yarned over twice. I'm just going to do the same thing, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and then again you need to skip the next stitch on the top because you already made the stitch for that space. So I'm going to single crochet 2 more times to complete the row, and then you can see where those post stitches I used and I worked across. And I'm going to show you one more thing, because in this cable pattern, sometimes you might have to work 3 post stitches across. Alright guys, so I reworked my swatch a little bit to show you how working the post stitches across looks when you're dealing with a bigger cable that has more stitches. So hopefully you can see that I have a group of 3 double crochet here and then another 3 here. So to start, I'm just going to work a couple of single crochet stitches. The pattern will direct you how many to make. So now, for example, my pattern tells me to work a front post double treble across 3 times. So what that basically means is, just like with the smaller cable we did, I'm not going to work my post stitches down here. I'm going to jump across, and I'm going to start with this first one, second one, third one, and I'm going to make my next 3 stitches way over here. So this is where I need to use a super long stitch. And I mentioned this in the pattern, but I'll just say it here. You know, the difference between the double crochet versus the treble versus the double treble is just the number of times you yarn over. So you are free to adjust, like if you want to yarn over 1 extra time or 1 less time, just depending on your personal tension, that's okay. The trick is you just want the stitch to be able to lie nicely across your work and not cause puckering or to be too loose. So this is the number that works well for me for my tension. So that's what I wrote in the pattern, but you can adjust that. So for the double treble, I need to yarn over 3 times, and then I'm going to make my 3 stitches over here on this side. First, second, third. So just like before, nothing changes. It's just a really big jump. So that might look, if you've never done anything like this before, you know, you just might be confusing about if you're really supposed to do that, but you really are supposed to jump way over there. So that's the first one, and then I'm just going to repeat it into this next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over 3 times, go into the next one, and then complete my stitch. And then I've got to make 1 more. So there I've made my 3 stitches. So now I need to skip 3. 1, 2, 3 on this back side, because I've already made the next 3 stitches as post stitches on the front. And then again, the pattern will direct you to most likely single crochet a set number of times, and then you will have to finish the cross by now working into these 3 stitches here. And again, for a right-handed person, you're gonna 1, 2, 3. So it's the same thing, but it's just gonna feel awkward because you're reaching way over there. So again, you need a super long stitch. So that's where I'm using the double treble and yarning over 3 times. And then I'm gonna really try to get my hook and so that you can see way over here into this first. And then I'm going to finish the stitch. And then I'm going to make the next one, yarn over 3 times, come over, and then finish the stitch. And the last one. And it can feel a little bit sloppy in the moment. So if you're, you know, thinking about that note I said about adjusting the length of your stitches, you might want to just try a couple of rows and just see if it straightens out or not. But this is what mine looks like. again, so I made 3 stitches, so I need to skip 3 back here. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm just going to work single crochet stitches to the end of the row. And then I want to show you one more thing. So when working these really super tall stitches and then skipping stitches, what can happen is you can end up with a hole in your work. So maybe I'll see if I can show you that. So if I come back and I start working in the front loop only, I'm just going to work across part of the way. So I just worked part of the way because I want to show you. You can have a hole because those long stitches, you know, we skipped those 3 stitches back there, and so there it creates a hole. And it just depends. I mean, you know, you can't really see it that well, but depending on, like if this is going to be a pillow, depending on how else we stretch these cables, sometimes there can be a bit of a gap, and I don't like the way that looks. So what I do to close that up is this, and you are free to use this technique if you want, or you can just skip it and work the single crochet stitches across on the way back if you want. So I'm just chaining 1 and turning, and then I'm going to work in the front loop only. I have 3 stitches here before I get to my cable, before I get to that really tall double treble stitch. So I'm going to work my 3 single crochets into the front loop only. So now I'm to where those stitches are skipped, and I'm at my first double treble stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually grab the back loop of this row here where I skipped, and then grab the front loop of my double treble, yarn over, and pull up a loop, and then finish my single crochet stitch. And you can play around with this, like you could choose to just do it only for that first stitch, or you could do it for all 3, which is what I've been doing. So I'm again just gonna pick up that back loop from the row of stitches that I skipped, grab my front loop of that next double treble, yarn over and draw up a loop, and complete my single crochet. And then I'm going to do it one more time, just getting the back 3 stitches here where I skipped, just getting the front loop, so again, of the double treble, yarn over, pull up a loop, complete my single crochet. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. I got to make one more. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the back loop from the bottom skipped row, front loop of the double treble, back loop from the bottom skipped row, front loop from the double treble, the cable stitch, and one final time. And then finish out the row. And then I'll show you what it looks like. So now, you know, it pretty much looks the same, but it's gone. When you lift those tall stitches up, it's filled in underneath, so there is no hole. So it doesn't matter if this kind of gets stretched, you know, like putting a pillow in it or whatever, you won't see a hole. And I have like a bigger here. It's all closed off everywhere. There's no hole. So I like this method better. And then on the back, it looks like that. It's really mostly just important to do that on the rows with the really tall, like the double trebles or the trebles. you can see maybe down here I didn't do that just for those double crochet stitches at the very bottom of my work. They don't really sit up long enough to leave a hole, but there's still one there. So for my pillow, I did it for all of the stitches. But if you wanted to just only save it for the really tall ones, I think that's the most critical place to do it. But you can certainly catch those stitches from the cable every time to ensure that you have no holes.